The champagne bubbles caught the gallery lights like tiny stars, mocking me with their celebration. I sat in my wheelchair near the back corner of the exhibition hall, watching everyone admire the paintings on the walls. My paintings, though you wouldn't know it from the labels. Exquisite work by our newest discovery, Adrian Voss, Marcus announced to the crowd, his alpha voice carrying that commanding tone that used to make my heart race. Now it just made my stomach turn. Adrian Voss. The name felt like acid on my tongue. That name wasn't real. Adrian Voss was a fiction Marcus had created 6 months ago, a phantom artist whose work was actually mine. Every brushstroke, every color choice, every emotion poured onto those canvases had come from my hands, my heart, my soul. I discovered the truth 3 days ago, purely by accident. I'd been going through Marcus's office files looking for our insurance papers after my wheelchair needed repairs, and I'd found the contracts. Sales records showing my paintings sold for thousands of dollars, all attributed to Adrian Voss. Bank statements showing deposits into an account I'd never seen. Email chains discussing how to maintain the mystery of this exclusive new artist. My hands trembled as I gripped the wheels of my chair. The accident 2 years ago had taken my ability to walk, but it had never touched my ability to paint. If anything, my art had become more profound, more raw. I'd poured all my pain, all my struggle, all my hope into those pieces. Kai, darling, try to smile. Marcus had told me this morning as he adjusted his Armani suit. This is a big night for the gallery. For the gallery. Not for me. Never for me. I watched him now, working the room with practiced charm, his hand resting possessively on the waist of a young beta woman I didn't recognize. My boyfriend of 3 years, the man who'd promised to support my career, who'd sworn that my disability didn't matter, who'd held me through countless nights when the phantom pains kept me awake. All lies. Marcus, I said, wheeling myself toward him as the crowd thinned slightly. My heart hammered against my ribs. We need to talk. He turned to me, and for just a second, I saw irritation flash across his handsome face before he smoothed it into a patronizing smile. Not now, Kai. Can't you see I'm busy? It's about Adrian Voss. His expression froze. The beta woman excused herself, sensing the tension. Let's take this to my office, Marcus said quietly, his smile tight. No. The word came out stronger than I expected. 2 years of physical therapy had taught me that strength wasn't just about legs that worked. Right here. I want answers right here. Kai, you're making a scene. Good. My voice rose, and I felt the eyes of nearby guests turning toward us. Tell them, Marcus. Tell them who really painted these pieces. Tell them who Adrian Voss actually is. His jaw clenched. You're being hysterical. I found the contracts. The bank statements. The emails discussing how a disabled Omega artist wouldn't sell. How the art world wants mystery and intrigue, not someone in a wheelchair. The room had gone quiet now. I could feel dozens of eyes on us, hear the whispers starting to spread like wildfire. Marcus's expression shifted from patronizing to cold in an instant, his alpha presence suddenly oppressive. You signed those papers, Kai. You agreed to everything. I signed papers saying you'd represent me, not steal my work. Steal? He laughed, the sound cruel. Darling, I made you relevant. Without me, you'd be painting sad little pictures in your apartment, hoping someone would pity by them. I turned your work into something valuable. The words hit like physical blows. By erasing me completely? By making people focus on the art instead of. He gestured vaguely at my wheelchair, his lip curling with disgust. The tragedy. The disability. The Omega who needs taking care of. No one wants that story, Kai. They want Adrian Voss, mysterious, elusive, whole. Whole. As if I were broken beyond repair. You told me you loved me, I whispered, hating how my voice cracked. I loved your talent. I still do. Marcus straightened his tie, his alpha composure returning. But let's be honest, us? That was always more about convenience than love. You needed someone to take care of you, and I needed a steady source of quality work. It was transactional. The room spun. 3 years. 3 years of my life, my art, my trust, all built on lies. We're done, Marcus continued, his voice carrying to every corner of the now silent gallery. Professionally and personally. I'm sure you understand. The gallery needs to maintain its reputation, and frankly, your behavior tonight has been embarrassing. I'll have your things sent to your apartment. He was breaking up with me. Here. Now. In front of everyone. Marcus, wait. Oh, and Kai. He turned back, his smile sharp as glass. Those paintings? All sold under contract to Adrian Voss. Legally, they're not yours to claim. My lawyers will be in touch if you try to cause any more trouble. I'd hate to see you lose what little you have left. He walked away, leaving me alone in the center of the gallery, surrounded by my own art that I couldn't claim, watched by a crowd of strangers who'd just witnessed my complete humiliation. I couldn't breathe. The walls seemed to close in, the whispers growing louder, pitying glances cutting deeper than any knife. My hands shook so badly I could barely grip the wheels of my chair. I had to get out. Now. I turned toward the exit, vision blurring with unshed tears, and crashed directly into someone's legs. "I'm sorry," I gasped, backing up. "I'm so careful." The voice was deep, controlled, with an undertone of something dark. I looked up and found myself staring into the coldest gray eyes I'd ever seen. The man was tall, towering from my seated perspective, with sharp features that looked carved from ice. His black suit was perfectly tailored, expensive in a way that made Marcus's Armani look cheap. His dark hair was styled back, emphasizing the harsh angles of his face. Everything about him screamed power and danger. I recognized him immediately. Everyone in the art world knew Damien Frost, CEO of Frost Galleries, the largest gallery chain on the East Coast. Marcus's biggest rival. Known for his ruthless business tactics, his impossible standards, and his complete lack of warmth. They said he destroyed competitors without blinking, that he evaluated art with brutal honesty that had made grown artists cry. They called him the Ice King of the art world. "Mr. Frost," I managed, trying to compose myself even as tears threatened to spill over. "I apologize for." "Don't." He cut me off, his gaze moving from me to Marcus across the room, then back. "You're Kai Chen, the real artist behind these paintings." My breath caught. "How did you?" "I make it my business to know talent when I see it." His expression didn't change, but something flickered in those gray eyes. "I've been watching your work for 2 years. Since before the accident. You have a gift." I didn't know what to say. Damien Frost knew my work? Had been watching my career? "That scene just now," he continued, his voice low enough that only I could hear. "Unfortunate, but also illuminating." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, holding it out to me. I took it with trembling fingers. "Come to my office Monday morning. 9 o'clock. His eyes met mine, and despite their coldness, I saw something there. Calculation, yes, but also opportunity? "I have a proposition for you." "What kind of proposition?" "The kind that ensures Marcus Holloway regrets ever underestimating you." The smallest hint of a smile touched his lips, predatory and sharp. "The kind that gives you back everything he stole and more." Before I could respond, he was gone, moving through the crowd like a shark through water, leaving me holding his card and wondering if I'd just been offered salvation or something far more dangerous. I looked down at the embossed text, Damien Frost, CEO, Frost Galleries, and beneath it, a personal cell phone number. The gallery lights seemed too bright, the whispers too loud, my heart too shattered to make sense of anything. But as I wheeled myself toward the exit, past my stolen paintings and through the pitying stares, I clutched that card like a lifeline. Marcus had destroyed me tonight. Publicly, professionally, personally. But Damien Frost had just offered me a chance to rise from the ashes. I didn't know what his proposition would entail. I didn't know if I could trust him. The Ice King didn't have a reputation for kindness or charity. But as I made it outside into the cold night air, breathing deeply for the first time in what felt like hours, I made a decision. Monday morning, 9 o'clock. I would hear what Damien Frost had to say. Because right now, I had nothing left to lose and everything to reclaim. The city lights blurred as I finally let the tears fall, but beneath the pain and humiliation, something else was stirring. Something that felt dangerously close to hope. Or maybe revenge. With Damien Frost, I suspected they might be the same thing. Monday morning arrived too quickly and too slowly at the same time. I'd spent the entire weekend in my apartment, staring at blank canvases I couldn't bring myself to touch, jumping every time my phone buzzed with another message from former friends asking if the rumors were true. The rumors had spread like wildfire. Disabled Omega artist has meltdown at gallery opening. Marcus Holloway dumps unstable boyfriend. Kai Chen claims he painted Adrian Voss's work. Delusion or desperate attention grab? My phone buzzed again. This time it was my landlord, reminding me that rent was due in 2 weeks. The money I'd been expecting from Marcus, my share of the last commission, would never come now. I had maybe enough in my account to cover 1 more month, 2 if I stopped eating regularly. I looked at Damien Frost's business card, still sitting on my bedside table where I'd placed it Friday night. The embossed letters seemed to shimmer in the morning light. 9 o'clock. I had 30 minutes to get across town. The Frost building was nothing like Marcus's gallery. Where Marcus had gone for historical charm, exposed brick, arched windows, that fake bohemian artist vibe, Frost Galleries occupied the top 15 floors of a gleaming steel and glass tower in the financial district. Everything about it screamed money, power, and permanence. Getting through security with my wheelchair was surprisingly smooth. The guard at the desk took one look at my ID, made a call, and within minutes I was being escorted to a private elevator by a crisp professional Omega in an expensive suit. "Mr. Frost is expecting you," she said with a warm smile. "I'm Yuki, his executive assistant. The building is fully accessible. We have ramps, wide doorways, and accessible restrooms on every floor. If you need anything at all, please let me know." I blinked in surprise. Marcus's gallery had barely met basic accessibility requirements. I'd had to be carried up the back stairs more than once for events on the second floor. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse office that took my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city, making me feel like I was floating above the world. The space was minimalist but warm. Dark wood floors, carefully curated art pieces on white walls, furniture that managed to be both modern and comfortable. And there, standing at the window with his back to me, was Damien Frost. "Mr. Chen," he said without turning around. "Punctual. I appreciate that. You can call me Kai," I said, wheeling myself further into the office. "Mr. Chen makes me sound like my father." He turned then, and I was struck again by how commanding his presence was. In the harsh light of day, he looked even more intimidating than he had at the gallery. His gray eyes studied me with an intensity that made me feel simultaneously exposed and seen. "Kai, then." He gestured to a low, modern couch with perfect height for wheelchair transfer. "Please sit if you'd like." I had the furniture arranged with accessibility in mind. I stared at him. "You rearranged your office?" "For me?" I rearranged it to be functional for a potential business partner. His expression remained neutral, but something in his tone suggested he didn't see the distinction as important. "Would you like coffee? Tea?" "I'm fine. I'd rather just hear this proposition." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Direct. I like that." He sat in a chair across from me, his posture relaxed but alert. "I'll be equally direct. I want to offer you exclusive representation at Frost Galleries. Full creative control, proper attribution, and a commission structure that actually favors the artist. 60-40 split in your favor." I felt my jaw drop. 60-40? That's. Marcus was giving me 30%, and that was before he. I stopped, the betrayal still too fresh. "Before he stole everything," Damien finished coldly. "Yes, I'm aware. I've had my legal team reviewing the contracts you signed. They're exploitative at best, fraudulent at worst." "Your legal team? How did you?" "I make it my business to know everything about Marcus Holloway's operations. We've been competitors for years." He leaned forward slightly. "I'm not going to pretend this is purely altruistic, Kai. I want your talent in my galleries because you're brilliant. Your work has depth, emotion, technical skill that most artists spend decades trying to achieve. You paint like someone who's lived through darkness and found light on the other side." His words hit something deep in my chest. When was the last time someone had talked about my art like this? Not as something to be managed or marketed, but as something valuable in itself. "But there's more," he continued. "Marcus Holloway has been a thorn in my side for years. He cuts corners, exploits artists, and gives the entire industry a bad name. Taking you from him, showcasing your real work, proving that he's been committing fraud, that serves my purposes as well. So I'd be a weapon in your rivalry. You'd be an artist whose talent is finally recognized and whose career is finally in your own hands." His eyes held mine. The fact that it also destroys Marcus is simply a bonus. I should have been offended. I should have wheeled out of there immediately. This was clearly about business, about revenge, about beating a rival. But God help me, part of me wanted exactly that. Part of me wanted to watch Marcus's empire crumble. "What's the catch?" I asked. "This is too generous. 60-40 split, full creative control, your legal team fighting my battles? What do you really want?" Damien was quiet for a moment, his gray eyes studying my face. "The catch is that this won't be easy. Marcus will fight back. He'll come after you legally, professionally, personally. He'll spread rumors, call you a liar, try to destroy what little reputation you have left. Working with me will paint a target on your back. I already have a target on my back. Fair point. He stood and walked to his desk, pulling out a folder. I'm also offering you studio space. There's a converted loft 2 floors down. North-facing windows, perfect natural light, completely accessible. You'd have 24-hour access, security, supplies covered under the gallery's budget. He opened the folder and showed me photos. The space was beautiful, open, bright, with hardwood floors and exposed beams. Nothing like the cramped corner of Marcus's gallery, where I'd been relegated to work. Why? The word came out smaller than I intended. Why are you doing all this? Damien set the folder down and looked at me, really looked at me. Do you know the first painting of yours I ever saw? I shook my head. It was 3 years ago, at a small group show in Brooklyn. Before your accident, you'd painted this piece called Threshold. A doorway half in shadow, half in light, with these incredible gradations of color that made it impossible to tell where one ended and the other began. His voice carried a note of something almost like reverence. I stood in front of that painting for 20 minutes. I bought it that night. You own Threshold. I own 7 of your pieces, actually. All purchased through various channels over the years. He walked back to the windows. After your accident, your work changed. Deepened. The piece you did called Fracture. The one Marcus sold 6 months ago as Adrian Voss's debut. That painting made me angry. Angry, because it was brilliant and nobody knew who really created it. Because Marcus Holloway was profiting from your pain while you disappeared from the art world. He turned back to face me. I've been waiting for an opportunity to approach you. Friday night, you gave me that opportunity. My heart was racing. This was insane. Damien Frost, the Ice King, had been collecting my work? Had been following my career? I still don't understand why you care so much. Something shifted in his expression, a crack in that cold facade. Because I know what it's like to be used. To have someone you trust take everything you've built and claim it as their own. His jaw tightened. My father tried to do it to me. Tried to take control of the galleries I'd built from nothing. Claim they were his vision, his success. It took years of legal battles to get free of him. The vulnerability in his voice shocked me. This wasn't the ruthless CEO the art world whispered about. This was someone who understood betrayal intimately. So this is personal for you too, I said quietly. Everything is personal when it comes to art and betrayal. He pulled out a contract from his desk. This is the representation agreement. Take it home, read it, have a lawyer review it if you want. Though I'm happy to have my legal team explain any clause. There's no pressure, Kai. If you say no, you walk away and we never speak of this again. I took the contract with shaking hands. The first page alone had terms that seemed too good to be true. And if I say yes, then we start fighting back immediately. My lawyers file suit against Marcus for fraud and breach of contract. We schedule your first real exhibition under your own name for 3 months from now. And we make sure everyone in the art world knows exactly who Adrian Voss really is. 3 months. 3 months to create an entire exhibition while Marcus tried to destroy me. 3 months in the spotlight of what would undoubtedly be the art world's scandal of the year. It was terrifying. It was impossible. It was exactly what I needed. Can I see the studio? I asked. Before I decide? For the first time since I'd met him, Damien Frost smiled. Really smiled. It transformed his entire face, making him look younger, less severe, almost warm. Of course. Follow me. The studio was even more beautiful in person. Afternoon light poured through the massive windows, illuminating every corner of the space. There was a specially designed easel system that could adjust for my wheelchair, proper storage, even a small bathroom that was completely accessible. I wheeled myself to the center of the room and closed my eyes, feeling the light on my face, imagining the possibilities. I'll do it, I said, opening my eyes to find Damien watching me intently. I'll sign your contract. You don't want to read it first? I'll read it tonight. But my answer won't change. I looked around the studio again, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Real, tangible hope. Whatever Marcus throws at us, it can't be worse than what he's already done. Damien's expression was unreadable. Don't underestimate him. He'll play dirty. Then we'll play dirtier. That smile returned, sharp and dangerous. I think we're going to work well together, Kai Chen. As I left the Frost building that afternoon, contract tucked safely in my bag, I felt the weight of the weekend start to lift. Yes, this was risky. Yes, Damien Frost had his own agenda. Yes, Marcus would come after me with everything he had. But for the first time in years, someone believed in my art enough to fight for it. For the first time since the accident, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't broken after all. I just hoped I wasn't trading one controlling alpha for another. Only time would tell if I'd made the right choice, or if I'd just walked into an even more dangerous trap. The first 2 weeks working at Frost Galleries passed in a blur of legal meetings, planning sessions, and long hours in the studio. True to his word, Damien's lawyers moved quickly. By the end of week 1, Marcus had been served with a lawsuit for fraud, breach of contract, and misappropriation of intellectual property. His response came exactly as Damien had predicted, swift and vicious. I was in the studio, finally painting again after years of creative drought, when Yuki knocked on my door with a tablet in her hands. Her usual smile was strained. "Kai, I think you need to see this." The screen showed Marcus's social media, a carefully crafted post with photos of us from happier times, his arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling at some long-ago gallery opening. Heartbroken to address the recent allegations from my former partner, Kai Chen. Mental health struggles and substance abuse issues led to our breakup. I've tried to support him privately, but his increasingly erratic behavior and false accusations have forced me to speak publicly. The Adrian Voss conspiracy is a delusion born from his inability to accept that his own work wasn't commercially viable. I have documentation proving all paintings were created by a contracted artist. My prayers are with Kai during this difficult time. Hashtag mental health matters, hashtag truth will prevail. The words made my blood run cold. Substance abuse? Mental health struggles? Every word was a calculated lie designed to destroy my credibility. That bastard, I breathed. He's trying to make me look unstable. It gets worse. Yuki scrolled down to show the comments, hundreds of them, expressing sympathy for Marcus, calling me a scorned ex trying to ruin a good man's reputation, suggesting my disability had made me bitter and delusional. My hands were shaking so badly, I nearly dropped my paintbrush. 2 years of physical therapy, of learning to live with chronic pain, of proving I was more than my disability, and Marcus had weaponized it all with a single post. "Where's Damien?" My voice came out raw. "In his office. He's already seen it." I wheeled myself to the elevator, my heart pounding with rage and humiliation. The comments kept replaying in my mind. Sad what bitterness does to people. He probably can't handle that Marcus moved on. Using his disability for sympathy, disgusting. Damien's office door was open. He stood at his window, phone pressed to his ear, his voice cold and clipped. "I don't care what it costs. I want every record, every email, every text message between Holloway and his contracted artist. I want proof that Adrian Voss doesn't exist by end of business today." He turned as I entered, his gray eyes sharpening with concern. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone, then set it down. "You saw the post. The whole world saw the post." I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. "He's calling me crazy, Damien. He's making it sound like I'm some delusional Omega who can't handle rejection." "I know." He crossed the room toward me, and I was surprised to see genuine anger in his expression. "He's escalating faster than I anticipated. This is a desperate move." "Desperate? It's working. Look at those comments. Everyone believes him." "The comments don't matter. The truth matters." Damien knelt down so we were eye level, something no alpha had ever done for me except in condescension. But there was nothing condescending in his gaze, only fierce determination. "Kai, listen to me. Marcus is panicking because our lawsuit is solid. He's trying to discredit you before we can prove fraud. This is actually a good sign." "It doesn't feel like a good sign," I said, hating how my voice shook. "It feels like everything's falling apart again. Then we'll put it back together. Stronger this time." He stood and went to his desk, pulling up something on his computer. "Look at this." The screen showed an email chain, Marcus communicating with various art buyers, promising them exclusive Adrian Voss originals, with delivery dates that coincided exactly with when I'd completed paintings. There were even messages where Marcus discussed keeping the Omega quiet and managing Kai's expectations. "My investigators found these on a server Marcus thought was secure," Damien said. "This is proof he knew exactly what he was doing. Premeditated fraud." I stared at the evidence, feeling something crack open in my chest. He planned this from the beginning. Even before the accident, he was setting this up. "Yes." Damien's voice was soft but firm. "Which means nothing about this is your fault. Not your disability, not your trust, nothing. Marcus is a predator who found a vulnerable target. The words should have hurt, but instead they felt like release. For months I'd been blaming myself for being too trusting, too dependent, too broken to see the truth. What do we do now? I asked. Now we respond. Not emotionally, but strategically. He pulled up a fresh document. My PR team is drafting a statement. Professional, factual, backed by evidence. We'll post it on the Frost Gallery's official account and your personal platforms. But more importantly, he turned to face me fully. We accelerate your exhibition. Instead of 3 months, we do it in 6 weeks. 6 weeks? That's impossible. You already have 12 pieces completed or in progress. You need 8 more for a full show. That's entirely achievable. His eyes held mine. But more than that, it sends a message. While Marcus is busy making accusations on social media, you'll be creating art. Real, powerful, undeniable art. We'll invite every major critic, every gallery owner, every art journalist. We'll make it impossible for anyone to ignore your talent. My mind raced. 6 weeks. 20 paintings total. It was aggressive, maybe even reckless. But God, the idea of answering Marcus's lies with my art instead of my words. That felt right. Okay, I said. 6 weeks. But I'll need. Whatever you need, you'll have it. Materials, additional assistants, extended studio hours. Just say the word. I looked at him, this alpha who barely smiled, who the art world called cold and calculating, who was now offering me unlimited resources to fight back against the man who'd destroyed me. Why are you doing all this, Damien? And don't tell me it's just about beating Marcus. This is more than business. He was quiet for a long moment, that mask of composure slipping just slightly. You want the truth? I want to understand. He walked back to the window, his shoulders tense. 5 years ago, I was engaged to an Omega named Chris. He was a curator, brilliant and passionate about art. I thought we were building something real. His voice went flat, emotionless in a way that betrayed how much emotion he was suppressing. Turns out he was feeding information about my gallery acquisitions to my father, helping the old man try to undermine my business. When I discovered the betrayal, Chris claimed he'd never loved me, that I was too cold, too focused on work, that being with me was like being with a beautiful statue. My heart clenched. Damien, my father used that information to nearly bankrupt me. Said I was too emotionally compromised to run the galleries, that I needed his guidance. It took me 2 years to recover financially and rebuild my reputation. And I did it by becoming exactly what Chris accused me of being: cold, calculating, untouchable. He turned to look at me, and for the first time I saw real vulnerability in those gray eyes. When I watched Marcus humiliate you at that gallery, I saw myself 5 years ago. Someone whose trust was weaponized against them. Someone whose love was treated like a transaction. So this is about redemption, I said softly. For both of us. Maybe. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Or maybe I just recognize real talent when I see it, and I'm tired of watching mediocre alphas like Marcus Holloway succeed by stealing from people more gifted than themselves. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression darkened. Marcus just posted again. He's claiming he has proof of your alleged substance abuse. Pharmacy records showing pain medication prescriptions. Ice flooded my veins. Those are legitimate prescriptions. For my accident. Chronic pain management. I know, but he's spinning it as evidence of addiction. Damien's jaw clenched. He's playing very dirty now. Something in me snapped. The humiliation, the lies, the weaponization of my disability and my pain. It was too much. I want to respond. Publicly. No more hiding behind lawyers and PR statements. I want to tell my story. Kai, that's exactly what he wants. He's trying to bait you into an emotional response that makes you look unstable. Then I'll give an interview. Professional, controlled, with a reputable journalist. I met his eyes. You said we play dirtier than Marcus. Well, he's using my vulnerability as a weapon. I'm going to use it as armor. Damien studied me for a long moment, and I saw something shift in his expression. Respect, maybe, or recognition. You're sure? I'm sure. Then I know exactly who to call. He picked up his phone again. Sarah Chen at Arts and Culture magazine. She's been wanting an exclusive interview with you since your work started gaining attention. She's fair, thorough, and she has no love for Marcus Holloway after he tried to blackball her for a negative review 3 years ago. Within an hour, the interview was scheduled for the following week. Damien's PR team began preparing talking points, but he stopped them. No scripts. Kai tells his story in his own words. We just make sure the facts are clear, and we have documentation to back up everything he says. That night, I stayed late in the studio, painting with a fury I'd never experienced before. The piece that emerged was raw and violent. Shattered glass in shades of red and black, with tiny fragments of gold scattered throughout like stars in a dark sky. I called it Fracture in Gold, a reference to the Japanese art of Kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold, making it more beautiful for having been broken. I was so absorbed in the work that I didn't notice Damien enter until he spoke. It's beautiful. I jumped slightly, paintbrush slipping. He'd removed his jacket and rolled up his sleeves, looking more relaxed than I'd ever seen him. It was past midnight. I'd lost track of time completely. I didn't hear you come in, I said, setting down my brush. What are you still doing here? I work late most nights. I saw your studio light on and wanted to check on you. He moved closer to the canvas, his eyes studying every detail. This is about the Kintsugi philosophy, isn't it? Finding beauty in the broken places. You know about Kintsugi? I collect Japanese pottery. The philosophy has always resonated with me. The idea that damage and repair become part of an object's history, not something to hide. His eyes met mine. We're not so different, you and I. Both broken in different ways. Both trying to find the gold in the cracks. The intimacy of the moment hit me suddenly. We were alone, late at night, and he was looking at me with an intensity that had nothing to do with business or rivalry. My heart rate picked up. Damien, I said carefully, what are we doing here? Really? What do you mean? This. I gestured between us. The late nights, the personal conversations, you kneeling down to my level. That's not something you'd do for just any artist you're representing. He was quiet, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he moved closer until he was standing right beside my wheelchair. You're right. It's not. Then what? I'm attracted to you, Kai. The words were simple, direct, devastating. I have been since I first saw your work 3 years ago. When I met you in person, when I saw your strength and your talent, and your refusal to be diminished by what you've survived. He exhaled slowly. I told myself this was just business. That I was helping you despite Marcus and nothing more. But that's not entirely true. My mouth went dry. Damien Frost, the Ice King, was attracted to me? I don't understand. You could have anyone. I don't want anyone. I want someone real. Someone who understands what it means to be betrayed and still choose to create beauty. His hand lifted as if to touch my face, then hesitated. But I also know you're vulnerable right now. You're coming out of a traumatic relationship, fighting legal battles, rebuilding your entire life. The last thing you need is another alpha trying to complicate things. He was right. This was complicated, possibly even dangerous. I was his client, he was my representative, and we were in the middle of a legal war with my ex. Every rational part of my brain screamed that this was a terrible idea. But my heart, my stupid, hopeful heart, wanted nothing more than to close the distance between us. What if I want complicated? I whispered. His eyes darkened. Kai, what if I'm tired of playing it safe? What if I want to feel something other than anger and humiliation? I reached up and caught his wrist, the one still hovering near my face. What if I'm attracted to you too? You don't know what you're saying. Don't I? I pulled his hand down to rest against my cheek, feeling the warmth of his skin. You've seen me at my worst, Damien. You've seen me humiliated, angry, broken. And you're still here. You still look at me like I'm worth something. You're worth everything, he said fiercely. That's why we can't. I didn't let him finish. I pulled him down and kissed him. For one breathless second, he was frozen. Then his control shattered. His hand cupped the back of my head as he deepened the kiss, pouring weeks of tension and unspoken wanting into it. I gasped against his mouth, and he swallowed the sound, his other hand bracing on the arm of my wheelchair as he leaned in closer. He tasted like coffee and mint, and he kissed like a man starving. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. This is a terrible idea, he murmured. Probably the worst, I agreed. You could get hurt. I could get hurt. I'm already hurt. Maybe it's time to try something different. He pulled back enough to look at me, really look at me, his gray eyes searching my face. If we do this, if we try this, I need you to know something. I'm not good at relationships. I'm controlling and I work too much and I have trust issues that would require years of therapy to unpack. And I'm dealing with trauma from my last relationship, chronic pain that makes me irritable, and I'm about to be at the center of a very public scandal, I countered. We're both disasters. A matched set of disasters. A real smile broke across his face, warm and genuine, and so beautiful it made my chest ache. So what do we do? He straightened up, his hand still gently cupping my face. We take it slow. We're honest with each other. And we remember that you're more than my client. You're a brilliant artist who deserves to be treated as an equal partner in whatever this becomes. I can work with that. Good. He leaned down and kissed me again, softer this time, almost tender. Now go home and get some sleep. You have an interview to prepare for, and I need you sharp. Yes, sir, I said with a hint of sarcasm. His eyes flashed with something dark and promising. Don't call me sir, unless you want to find out exactly how controlling I can be. Heat flooded through me. Maybe I do. Kai, he warned, but there was no real threat in it, just promise. I grinned, feeling lighter than I had in months. Good night, Damien. Good night, Kai. As I wheeled myself toward the elevator, I glanced back to see him still standing by my painting, illuminated by the studio lights, watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. I'd kissed Damien Frost, the Ice King, my alpha rival's rival. And somehow, despite everything logical telling me this was a mistake, it felt like the first right decision I'd made in years. Marcus wanted to destroy me with lies about my stability? Fine. I'd show him exactly how stable I could be. Stable enough to create an exhibition that would change the art world's opinion of me, and maybe stable enough to let myself fall for someone who actually saw my worth. The gold in the cracks, indeed. The interview with Kai Chen was scheduled for Tuesday afternoon, but Marcus struck first. Monday morning, I woke to my phone exploding with notifications. Bleary-eyed, I grabbed it from my nightstand and felt my stomach drop as I read the headlines. Breaking. Marcus Holloway files countersuit against former partner for defamation and breach of contract, seeking $2 million in damages. $2 million. I didn't have $2,000, let alone $2 million. My hands shook as I scrolled through the legal filing that had been leaked to the press. Marcus's lawyers claimed I had violated a non-disclosure agreement, damaged his gallery's reputation, and stolen proprietary techniques and client lists. The document was 50 pages of dense legal language designed to terrify me into submission. It was working. I called Damien immediately. He answered on the first ring, his voice alert despite the early hour. I saw it. I'm already at the office with the legal team. Can you get here in an hour? Damien, $2 million, I can't. Breathe, Kai. His voice cut through my panic, steady and sure. This is a scare tactic. The suit is baseless, and Marcus knows it. He's trying to make you drop our case. Don't give him that satisfaction. But as I got ready and made my way to the Frost building, the fear didn't subside. It grew, wrapping around my chest like a vice. $2 million. If somehow Marcus won, I'd be in debt for the rest of my life. I'd lose everything, my art, my future, any chance at independence. The conference room was full when I arrived. Damien sat at the head of the table with 3 lawyers, all of them reviewing documents and typing furiously on laptops. He stood when I entered, his gray eyes sharp with concern. How are you holding up? I'm terrified, I admitted. Is that what you want to hear? I want you to be honest. He gestured to a seat beside him. Kai, meet Jennifer Park, my lead attorney. She specializes in intellectual property and fraud cases. Jennifer was a sharp-eyed alpha woman in her 40s who shook my hand with a firm grip. Mr. Chen, I've reviewed Marcus Holloway's countersuit. It's aggressive but largely without merit. The non-disclosure agreement he's citing doesn't actually cover the work you created, only general business operations. His claims of stolen techniques are laughable, and the client list accusation has no evidence. But $2 million is a number designed to intimidate. She pulled up a document on the screen. However, there's something in his filing that concerns me. He's claiming you signed an exclusivity agreement that gives him rights to any work you create for the next 5 years, even after your personal relationship ended. The blood drained from my face. What? I never signed anything like that. Are you certain? Jennifer's expression was kind but serious. Sometimes these clauses are buried in other contracts. Did you sign anything when you moved in with him? Or when he first started representing you? I tried to think back, but the memories were hazy. Marcus had always handled the paperwork, telling me not to worry about the boring legal stuff. I'd trusted him completely. I don't know, I whispered. He had me sign so many things over the years. I trusted him. Damien's hand found mine under the table, his fingers interlacing with my own. The gesture was hidden from the lawyers, private and grounding. "We'll figure this out," he said quietly. Jennifer nodded. "We need to go through every document you signed during your relationship with Marcus. Bank statements, contracts, rental agreements, everything. If there's an exclusivity clause, we need to find it and determine if it's enforceable." The meeting lasted 3 hours. By the end, I felt wrung out and hollow. Jennifer assured me they'd fight the countersuit aggressively, but the uncertainty gnawed at me. What if Marcus really did have some hidden contract I'd signed without reading properly? What if I'd accidentally bound myself to him for 5 years? After the lawyers left, Damien and I sat alone in the conference room. He hadn't let go of my hand. "I can see you spiraling," he said. "Talk to me. What if he wins? What if there is some clause I signed that I don't remember?" I looked at him, feeling tears burn behind my eyes. What if I destroyed my entire life by trusting the wrong person? Then we fight it in court. And if somehow, and I mean this with absolute certainty that it won't happen, but if somehow Marcus wins, you don't lose everything. You have me. You have this gallery. You have your talent. His grip tightened on my hand. Money is just money, Kai. It can be earned back. But your art, your spirit, those are irreplaceable. Easy to say when you have money. "I grew up with nothing," he said, his voice hardening. "My father was a small-time art dealer who drank away more than he earned. I built Frost galleries from a single storefront I could barely afford to rent. I know what it's like to be one bad break away from losing everything." His eyes met mine. "And I know that what makes you valuable has nothing to do with your bank account." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. "The interview tomorrow," I said. "Should we postpone it? Given the countersuit?" "Absolutely not. We go forward exactly as planned. You tell your story, you show your strength, and you remind the world why your art matters." He lifted my hand and pressed a kiss to my knuckles, the gesture so tender it made my chest ache. "Let Marcus play his legal games. You focus on creating." But creating was the last thing I felt capable of doing. That night, alone in my apartment, I sat in front of a blank canvas for hours. My hands hovered over the brushes, but every time I tried to paint, I saw Marcus's face, heard his accusations, felt the weight of that $2 million lawsuit crushing my chest. I was still sitting there at 2 a.m. when my phone rang. "Damien, you're not sleeping," he said without preamble. "How did you know?" "Because I'm not sleeping either." There was rustling on his end, like he was moving around. "I'm coming over." "Damien, it's 2 a.m. "I don't care. Give me your address." Something in his tone told me not to argue. 20 minutes later, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Damien in jeans and a dark sweater, his hair slightly mussed, looking more human than I'd ever seen him. "Hi," he said simply. "Hi." I wheeled back to let him in. "You didn't have to come all the way here." "Yes, I did." He closed the door behind him and looked around my small studio apartment. The unmade bed, the stack of bills on the counter, the blank canvas mocking me from the corner. "You're drowning, and I'm not going to let you go under alone." The kindness in his voice broke something open inside me. "I can't paint, Damien. I've been sitting here for hours, and I can't make anything. What if Marcus took that too? What if he broke me so completely that I can't create anymore?" "That's not possible." He crossed to where I sat and knelt down, just like he had that first day in his office. "Marcus can file all the lawsuits he wants, but he can't touch what's inside you. Your talent isn't something that can be taken by legal documents or countersuits." "Then why can't I paint?" "Because you're afraid. And that's okay. Fear is human." His hands cupped my face, his thumbs brushing away tears I hadn't realized were falling. "But you know what I see when I look at you? I see someone who survived an accident that could have killed them. Someone who learned to navigate the world in a completely new way. Someone who turned pain into beauty over and over again." His voice dropped to almost a whisper. "You're the strongest person I've ever met, Kai Chen. A lawsuit from a mediocre alpha doesn't change that. I don't feel strong. I feel terrified. Then be terrified. Feel everything you need to feel. But don't let Marcus make you believe you're anything less than extraordinary." I kissed him then desperately, needing to feel something other than fear. He responded immediately, his hands sliding into my hair as he deepened the kiss. It was different from the studio, more urgent, more raw. Less about attraction and more about need. "Kai," he murmured against my lips. We should slow down. You're vulnerable right now. Stop protecting me from myself," I said fiercely. I'm an adult. I know what I want. And right now, I want to feel something other than Marcus's control over my life. His eyes searched mine, and whatever he saw there made his resolve crumble. Are you sure? I'm sure. What happened next was a blur of sensation and emotion. Damien lifted me from my wheelchair with a gentleness that made my heart stutter, carrying me to the bed like I weighed nothing. He was careful with me, constantly checking that I was comfortable, that nothing hurt, that I wanted this as much as he did. And God, I wanted it. I wanted him. I wanted to lose myself in the feeling of being desired, being cherished, being seen as more than my disability or my trauma or my legal troubles. Afterward, we lay tangled together in my small bed, my head on his chest, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my shoulder. I started. Yeah, he agreed, and I could hear the smile in his voice. Are we going to be okay? I asked quietly. With everything that's happening. His arms tightened around me. I don't know what's going to happen with the lawsuits or the exhibition or Marcus's next attack. But I know that whatever comes, we face it together. If you want that. I want that. I tilted my head up to look at him. Even though this is crazy and complicated, and probably a terrible idea, especially because of that, he kissed my forehead. I spent 5 years being careful, being guarded, never letting anyone close enough to hurt me. And I was miserable. Maybe it's time to try being reckless for once. I smiled against his chest. The Ice King being reckless. Who would have thought? Only for you, he murmured. Only ever for you. I was drifting off to sleep, finally feeling safe for the first time in days, when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I almost ignored it, but something made me check. It was an email from an unknown address with no subject line. Inside was a single image, a contract with my signature at the bottom. The header read, Exclusivity and Intellectual Property Agreement. I sat up so fast I nearly fell out of bed. Damien caught me, immediately alert. What is it? With shaking hands, I showed him the email. He read it, his expression darkening with every line. The contract was dated 3 years ago, right when Marcus and I had first started dating. It stated that any artwork I created during our relationship, personal or professional, belonged to Marcus Holloway's gallery. The exclusivity clause extended for 5 years after the termination of the agreement, meaning Marcus could claim ownership of anything I created until next year. This can't be real, I whispered. I wouldn't have signed this. Damien was already on his phone, forwarding the email to Jennifer. Look at the signature, he said, zooming in. Does that look like your usual signature? I studied it carefully. The handwriting was similar but slightly off. The loop on the K was wrong, and I always crossed my eyes a certain way that wasn't present here. It's forged, I breathed. He forged my signature. That's what I think too. Damien's voice was cold fury. He's getting desperate. He sent this to scare you before the interview tomorrow, hoping you'd back down. How did he get my personal email? He probably still has access to accounts you shared during your relationship. Damien was already typing. Jennifer will have a forensic document examiner look at this first thing in the morning. If it's forged, and I'm betting my entire gallery it is, then Marcus just handed us proof of fraud. I looked at the contract again, feeling something shift inside me. Instead of fear, I felt anger. Hot, righteous anger. He thinks he can keep controlling me, I said. Even now, after everything, he thinks I'll just give up and let him win. Will you? I met Damien's eyes. No, I'm done being afraid of Marcus Holloway. Tomorrow, I'm doing that interview. And I'm telling the truth, all of it. About the fraud, the manipulation, the abuse. Let him sue me for every penny I don't have. I'd rather be broke and free than silent and complicit in my own erasure. Damien's smile was fierce and proud. That's my Omega. The possessive words should have bothered me, should have reminded me of Marcus's controlling behavior. But somehow, coming from Damien, they felt different. Not ownership, but partnership. Not control, but protection. Tomorrow changes everything, I said. Yes, it does. He pulled me back down beside him. But tonight you sleep. You need your strength for what's coming. I settled against him, feeling his steady heartbeat beneath my ear. Outside, the city hummed with late-night energy. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably plotting his next move, crafting his next lie, preparing his next attack. But for the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't alone in facing him. I had Damien. I had the truth. I had my art. And tomorrow, the whole world would hear my story. Let Marcus try to stop me. I was done being his victim. It was time to become the artist, and the person I was always meant to be. even if it meant burning everything down to rebuild from the ashes. The morning of the interview arrived with unexpected sunshine streaming through my apartment windows. Damien had left early to handle some crisis at the gallery, but he'd left coffee and a note on my counter. "You've got this. I'll be watching. D." The simple words steadied me as I got ready. I chose my clothes carefully, a deep blue button-down that Damien said brought out my eyes, dark jeans, simple jewelry. Professional but authentic. I wanted to look like myself, not like I was trying to be someone I wasn't. The interview was being filmed at Frost Galleries, in one of the viewing rooms with my paintings visible in the background. Sarah Chen's team had arrived early to set up cameras and lighting. When I wheeled in, Sarah herself came over immediately, extending her hand with a warm smile. "Kai, thank you for agreeing to this. I promise you a fair platform to tell your story." She was a beta woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an air of absolute competence. "We'll go through your history with Marcus, the Adrian Voss fraud, and your work with Frost Galleries. If at any point you need a break, just say the word." Damien stood off to the side with Yuki, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. But when our eyes met, he gave me a small nod of encouragement. The interview began gently. Sarah asked about my background, my training, what drew me to painting. I found myself relaxing into the conversation, talking about art the way I used to before Marcus, with passion and joy instead of fear. Then Sarah shifted. "Let's talk about the accident that left you using a wheelchair. That was 2 years ago, correct?" "Yes. A car accident. I was a passenger." The memories were still sharp, the screech of brakes, the impact, waking up in a hospital to learn I'd never walk again. It was the worst day of my life. But also, in some ways, it changed how I saw the world. My art became deeper, more emotional. I wasn't just painting what I saw anymore. I was painting what I felt. "And Marcus Holloway was your boyfriend at the time?" "He was. He visited me every day in the hospital, held my hand through physical therapy, told me my disability didn't change how he felt about me." I paused, feeling the old pain mix with new anger. I believed him completely. When did things change? I took a deep breath. About 6 months after the accident, Marcus started suggesting that I paint under a pseudonym. He said the art world was competitive, that my work would be judged more fairly without people's preconceptions about disability. It made sense to me at the time. I thought he was protecting me. Sarah leaned forward slightly. "But that's not what was happening." "No. He created Adrian Voss, a completely fictional artist. He sold my paintings under that name for full price, gave me a fraction of the proceeds, and told me it was a standard commission structure. When I asked to be credited, he said we had to maintain the mystery of Adrian Voss." My voice hardened. What I didn't know was that he was pocketing the difference and building Adrian Voss's reputation while erasing mine completely. "You have proof of this?" Damien's legal team has recovered extensive documentation. Email chains, sales records, contracts. Marcus created an elaborate fraud, and he did it because he believed a disabled Omega artist wouldn't sell. That I was somehow less valuable because I use a wheelchair. Sarah's expression was serious. "Marcus has made counter-allegations. He's claimed you're suffering from mental health issues, that the Adrian Voss story is a delusion born from your inability to accept that your work wasn't commercially viable." This was the moment where I could either let Marcus's lies stand or fight back with truth. "Marcus weaponized my disability and my medical history to discredit me," I said clearly. "Yes, I take pain medication for chronic pain from my accident. That's not substance abuse, that's medical treatment. Yes, I struggled emotionally after becoming disabled. That's not mental illness. That's a normal response to trauma. Marcus is taking the most vulnerable parts of my experience and twisting them to make me seem unstable because it's easier than admitting he committed fraud. That's a serious accusation. I have a forged contract that Marcus sent to my personal email 2 days ago. I pulled out my phone and showed her the image. This document claims I signed away all rights to my work for 5 years. But that's not my signature. Damien's team is having it analyzed by forensic experts, and I'm confident they'll prove it's a forgery. Marcus is so desperate to maintain his lie that he's now committing additional fraud." Sarah examined the document, her eyes widening slightly. "You're alleging that Marcus Holloway forged your signature?" "I'm not alleging. I'm stating a fact that will be proven in court." The interview continued for another hour. Sarah asked about my work with Frost Galleries, my upcoming exhibition, my relationship with Damien. I was honest about all of it, including that Damien and I had become involved personally. Some might say that compromises your professional relationship, Sarah noted. Some might say that two adults can have both a professional partnership and a personal relationship built on mutual respect. I met her eyes steadily. Damien has never tried to control my art or take credit for my work. He's given me resources, support, and most importantly, autonomy. That's the difference between someone who respects you and someone who exploits you. When the cameras finally stopped rolling, I felt simultaneously drained and exhilarated. Sarah shook my hand again. This will air tomorrow night. I think it's going to make quite an impact. Damien appeared at my side as Sarah's team packed up. You were incredible, he said quietly. Powerful, articulate, honest. Marcus won't know what hit him. I just told the truth. The truth is the most powerful weapon we have. He glanced around to make sure we were relatively alone, then leaned down and kissed my forehead. I'm so proud of you. That night, curled up in Damien's penthouse apartment, he'd insisted I stay with him for safety and support. I finally felt like I could breathe. We lay in his massive bed, watching the city lights through floor-to-ceiling windows. What happens after the interview airs? I asked. Chaos, probably. Media attention, public opinion shifting, Marcus scrambling to control the narrative. Damien's fingers played with my hair absently. But we'll handle it together. And the exhibition? For weeks away. You have 16 paintings completed. For more, and you'll have the full collection. He turned to look at me. How are you feeling about the work? Honestly, it's the best work I've ever done. All that pain, all that anger, it's transformed into something beautiful. Something true. I smiled. Marcus tried to break me, but instead he gave me the greatest artistic inspiration of my life. Turning trauma into triumph. Very poetic. Very honest. I shifted closer to him. Damien, what happens after? After the exhibition, after the lawsuit settles, after Marcus is finally out of my life. His expression grew serious. What do you want to happen? I want to keep creating. I want to work with Frost Galleries long-term, build a real career. I hesitated. And I want this. Us. If you do. Kai. He cupped my face gently. I've spent 5 years building walls around myself, convincing myself I was better off alone. You've demolished every single one of those walls in the span of a month. So yes, I want this. I want us. I want to wake up to you every morning and fall asleep beside you every night. I want to watch you create and support your career and be the person who gets to see all of you. The brilliant artist, the fierce fighter, the vulnerable Omega who's stronger than he knows. Tears burned in my eyes. That's the most words I've ever heard you string together. He laughed, the sound rare and beautiful. You bring out my verbose side. I love you, I said, the words escaping before I could stop them. I know it's fast and crazy, and we're in the middle of a legal nightmare, but I love you, Damien Frost. His breath caught. For a moment, he just stared at me, those gray eyes wide with something that looked like wonder. Then he smiled, really smiled, warm and open and absolutely breathtaking. I love you too, he whispered. My brilliant, stubborn, extraordinary Omega. I love you too. We kissed then, slow and deep and full of promise. And for the first time in years, I let myself hope for a future that wasn't defined by pain or betrayal, but by love and art and possibility. The interview aired the next evening. Within an hour, it had gone viral. My phone exploded with messages from old friends, fellow artists, journalists requesting follow-up interviews, galleries wanting to showcase my work. The hashtag Justice for Kai trended on social media. Artists came forward with their own stories of exploitation by Marcus, creating a wave of allegations that his lawyers couldn't possibly contain. But Marcus didn't go quietly. 2 days after the interview aired, he held his own press conference. I watched it from Damien's office, my hand clenched in his as Marcus stood behind a podium, looking haggard but defiant. I am the victim of a coordinated attack by my ex-partner and my business rival, Marcus declared. Damien Frost has been trying to destroy me for years, and he's using Kai Chen as his weapon. The forged signature Kai claims I created? That's actually his signature. He's lying to cover up his breach of contract. I have witnesses, documentation, everything needed to prove my innocence. He went on for 20 minutes, painting himself as the wronged party, suggesting that my relationship with Damien was a calculated move to destroy his reputation. When it was over, I felt sick. He's not going to stop. He's going to keep lying until we prove he's a fraud in court, Damien interrupted firmly. Jennifer called while he was speaking. The forensic analysis of that contract came back. It's definitively a forgery. The ink composition is wrong. The paper stock doesn't match anything you would have signed 3 years ago, and the signature itself has micro-variations that prove it wasn't written by your hand. Hope flared in my chest. So we have proof? Irrefutable proof. His smile was sharp. Jennifer is filing an emergency motion to present this evidence. Marcus committed fraud, Kai. Actual, prosecutable fraud. His lawyers are going to advise him to settle our lawsuit before this goes to criminal court. You mean we won? We're winning. There's a difference. He pulled me close. But yes, this is essentially the final blow. Marcus can hold press conferences all he wants. The evidence doesn't lie. 3 days later, Marcus's lawyers contacted Jennifer with a settlement offer. He would drop the countersuit, publicly acknowledge the Adrian Voss fraud, pay restitution for the paintings he'd sold under false pretenses, and sign an agreement never to claim credit for my work again. In exchange, we wouldn't pursue criminal charges for forgery. Take it, I told Jennifer immediately. I don't want his money or his apology. I just want him out of my life forever. The settlement was finalized within a week. Marcus released a brief statement admitting to poor judgment in the Adrian Voss matter and wishing me well in my future endeavors. It was hollow and meaningless, but it was over. He was out of my life. The exhibition opened on a perfect spring evening, exactly 6 weeks after I'd signed with Frost Galleries. The viewing room was packed with critics, collectors, journalists, and artists. Everyone who'd followed the story, everyone who wanted to see if I was really as talented as the scandal suggested. I'd titled the exhibition Kintsugi, Finding Gold in the Broken Places. 20 paintings hung on pristine white walls, each one a journey through pain and healing. There was fracture and gold. The piece I'd started the night Damien first came to my apartment. Shattered canvas, depicting the moment of my public humiliation. Ice and Fire, an abstract piece in grays and reds that represented my complicated feelings about falling for Damien. And in the center of the room, the final piece I'd completed just days before, Reborn. It showed a phoenix rising from ashes, but instead of flames, the bird was made of gold leaf and bright, hopeful colors. My signature was prominent in the corner. Not hidden, not erased, but celebrated. Kai Chen. My name. My art. My truth. Damien stood beside me as guests filtered through, his hand resting on my shoulder. He'd insisted on being present, but not hovering, letting me have this moment while still offering support. They love it, Yuki whispered, appearing at my other side. I've already fielded a dozen purchase inquiries, and the Times critic has been standing in front of Fracture and Gold for 15 minutes. Sarah Chen approached with a smile. Kai, congratulations. This is extraordinary work. The art world is going to remember this night. Thank you, I said, meaning it. Thank you for giving me a platform to tell my story. As the evening wore on, I found myself surrounded by people who saw my work, really saw it for the first time. Not as Adrian Voss's mysterious paintings, not as the creations of a disabled Omega to be pitted, but as art that stood on its own merit. Near the end of the night, as the crowd thinned, Damien pulled me aside to a quiet corner. I have something for you, he said, reaching into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box, and my heart stopped. Damien, it's not what you think. Not yet, anyway. He opened the box to reveal a delicate silver bracelet with a single charm, a tiny paintbrush made of gold. I wanted you to have something to remember this night, the night you reclaimed yourself. I couldn't speak. The gesture was so thoughtful, so perfectly him, practical and romantic all at once. Help me put it on. I managed. He fastened it around my wrist with careful fingers, then lifted my hand to kiss where the bracelet rested. You did this, Kai. You survived, you fought back, you created beauty from pain. I'm just privileged to witness it. We did this, I corrected. Together. Together, he agreed. As we stood there, surrounded by my art, by the evidence of my survival and my talent, I realized something profound. Marcus had tried to erase me, to make me believe I was only valuable through him. He'd used my disability, my trust, my love as weapons against me. But I'd found someone who saw my disability as simply part of who I was, not my defining feature, not something to exploit, just one aspect of a complete person. I'd found someone who valued my art because it was good, not because he could profit from it. I'd found someone who loved me not despite my scars, but with full acceptance of everything I'd survived. I'd found myself again. And in the process, I'd found a love built on mutual respect, genuine partnership, and the kind of trust that only comes from weathering storms together. "What are you thinking?" Damien asked softly. I looked up at him, this alpha who the world called cold, who I knew was anything but. "I'm thinking about gold in the cracks. How being broken and repaired can make something more beautiful than it was before. The Kintsugi philosophy. Our philosophy." I smiled. "You were broken too. We both were. But we found each other in the pieces. And now we build something new. Together." He leaned down and kissed me, soft and sweet and full of promise. Around us, my paintings glowed in the gallery lights. Proof that I'd survived, that I'd created, that I'd transformed my pain into something beautiful. Marcus Holloway had tried to destroy me. Instead, he'd given me the greatest gift of all, the chance to rebuild myself into someone stronger, braver, and more authentic than I'd ever been before. And he'd inadvertently led me to Damien, to real love, to a future I never could have imagined when I was sitting in that corner of Marcus's gallery, humiliated and broken. 3 months ago, I'd been lost, erased, convinced I was worthless without someone to validate me. Tonight, I was surrounded by people who celebrated my art. I had a career built on my own terms. I had a partner who saw me as an equal. I had reclaimed my name, my work, my life. The Ice King and the Broken Omega. That's what the art world gossips would call us. But I knew the truth. We were two people who'd survived betrayal, found each other in the aftermath, and chosen to build something beautiful from the ruins. We were partners, lovers, survivors. We were whole, not despite our scars, but because we'd learned to gild them with gold. And as Damien's hand found mine, our fingers intertwining naturally, I knew with absolute certainty that this was just the beginning. The best canvas of my life was still blank, waiting to be filled with all the colors of our future. And I couldn't wait to start painting.